Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. In this video, we're going to dive a little bit into Blaze. Now, for this, we're going to be writing our first helpers, we're going to be communicating with our templates, and we're going to be understanding how the template and Blaze interact through events. Okay, so we left off with this really basic example where we had this test template inside of our normal template here. Let's go ahead and actually just straight up delete this because we'll be making lots of templates as we go. So let's just go ahead and delete test instead of trying to rename it or something like that. And as you can see, saving everything, it's all good. We're going to head to body.js and delete this import statement as well. But we're going to actually remain in here for a little bit. And this is where we want to start talking about our JavaScript code. Now, the first thing we need to do is import the template object here from Meteor. So we can do that with import, and then inside of brackets, we can say template from, and then we can have a string, and we're going to say meteor / templating. Okay, wrap this off with a semicolon. Now, I'm going to actually have my inspect open. I'm going to pull this wide, just like that, just so we can make sure there's no errors in our console as we go. If you aren't sure how to access this, if you're using Chrome, you can right-click, inspect, and then you can either click on this console tab, or from the elements tab, you can hit the escape key and the console will pop up down here. If you're wondering why mine is not white, and it says this dark blue background, it's because I'm using a Chrome extension called DevTools Author. I also have a video on that under Level Up Tips in that playlist as well. So check that out if you're interested in having your inspect look a little bit cooler. If not, don't worry about it. So as you can see here, we have our import template from Meteor templating. Now I'm actually going to hide my sidebar here just to give this text some more room here so we can see this a little bit better. So now that we have imported template from Meteor templating, we now have access to this template object. Now this import statement may have been confusing, right? We have brackets, template, brackets. I'm going to be explaining a lot more why we use these brackets here, when to use them and when not to. Right now, just know that when we're importing something like this, that's an individual thing, like we did Meteor or whatever from a package that's larger stuff, you'll want to use these brackets. I'll be explicit about that right now, but when we start exporting things, I'll tell you why. So we can say import template from meteor.templating, and as long as everything's spelled good, we are all good to go. And here we can now start our first helper. Now our helper is really just something that we'll have access to in our HTML. It can be things that are processed by JavaScript. It can be items that are grabbed from the database. We can do all sorts of stuff. So let's type template.body. Now body isn't something special here. It's the name of the template. For instance, if we were in modifying the test template, this would be template.test. So in this case, template.body.helpers. Now this is essentially just a function here, or a method, and inside of this method, it's going to accept an object. Now inside of this object, we're going to have a property. This property will just be hello, okay? Now, just like in any other JavaScript object, you have to have a property and a value. This can just be a string that says hi world instead of hello world, because it's different. Okay. Now, what's interesting here is that we now have access to this template helper named hello inside of our document. So let's see this in action here. Basically, it's just a string hi world. We can come to body.html now, and let's, underneath our header here, let's have a main section, and we can have an h2, and this can just be bracket, bracket, and this will now be the name, the property of our helper. So our helper was hello, and we have access to hello with hello. And now we see on our code over here on our front end that we have hi world as now output. Now, why is this important? Why would you ever use this? Well, if you're pulling things from the database, you have data that you're working with, maybe you're iterating over something. Basically, every time you need to grab something, manipulate it, do anything, and output it, you're going to be using a helper. And a helper is basically something that's going to take JavaScript or data and then put it into language that your template can understand. Now let's go ahead and talk about events. I'm going to come here and let's go ahead and simply just add a button. And we can say, click me. And this button is going to have a class equal to, and this class is simply just going to be click. And this class is just simply going to be, let's just have this be test. Again, I'm not going to keep this. This is just so we can get used to working with events. So you've seen a helper now, and a helper looks like this. Now let's check out an event. So just like helpers, we declare events by saying template dot, and then the name of the template, which is body, dot events. Now the events is also just a method that accepts an object. So we have a method with an object inside of here with these curly brackets, and with our first property is going to be a string. So our properties are always going to be strings here for this, and I'm going to show you why. Because this string contains two things. It contains the event that we're looking for, and then it contains the item that we're looking for that event to take place on. For instance, we want to click this button and just simply console log something. So we can say a click event on the .test, and that's going to be the property of this object. Now, the value of this object is going to be a function. Now we could do it this way and say function event and have it like this. Inside of here, let's go ahead and just simply say console.log hello. Okay. Sorry for using hello and hi and test and all this stuff. It's important to get a nice little foundation about how this stuff looks before we're going into anything important. So now that we have this event, let's go ahead and click me, and you'll see that we get hello output down here in our console. Let's bump this up so you can see it a little bit better. Hello right there. Click it. Every time I click it, this number goes up, saying I've clicked it now 17 times. Cool. So let's go over this again. We're saying we have events on the template.body. When you click the class of test, run this function. This function simply just console logs hello. Now let's talk about how we can clean this up a little bit. Now we could use something like an arrow function, which is in the ES 2015 syntax, which allows us to preserve this. More about that as it actually matters. It doesn't really matter here, but we can say arrow like that. And notice how we have our parentheses, arrow, bracket. Other than that, it's the same. I'm going to hit a manual refresh on this just so you can clear the console. Click me. You can see it still works. But in addition to that, we also have a different way of defining a function within something like this with the new syntax. What we can do is simply get rid of this colon here and move this over here and get rid of this arrow like this. Okay, and now what we're saying is the click test method here is just going to pass this event and console.log hello. So this is just a shorter hand way of saying this. Now we can click this, and as you can see, as we click it, it's still working. Okay, so this is a helper, and this is an event. Primarily, these are going to be the things that you're going to be working with within an individual helper. You're going to be pulling data and displaying it with helpers. You're going to be submitting forms, doing click events, updating content, all sorts of stuff with events. And what kind of stuff, might you ask? Well, in the next video, we're going to be talking about collections. Now, a collection is essentially ways you can store your information into a database and access it, modify it, update it, delete it, all that stuff in real time. It's really super cool, and collections are saved in a MongoDB database or a MongoDB database. Do people say that? I'm not sure. But either way, it's a MongoDB database, and we'll be able to actually save some persisting data into our Meteor app. You're going to see one of the key strengths of Meteor front and center in the very next video. So as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment on this video or hit me up at Twitter or Facebook at Level Up Tutorials. If you would like this series, you would like to learn the basics of Meteor using Blaze, head over to store.leveluptutorials.com and purchase this entire series. It's available right now. You can purchase it, or you can subscribe to Level Up Pro, become a subscriber, and get a whole bunch of videos on early access, including this entire series and all of its code. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.